Great. I see that. It's recording.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
thank you for the opportunity. Yeah. So we just, we're such a tiny community, but really God showed us, like he always does, in that experience that there's also opportunity, huh? And I don't know, I'm sure you've heard this before. I don't know if it's true or not, but it should be. If it's not, I read something once of
That's an Irish story.
That's right.
That's how you describe an Irish story. If it's not true, it should be.
It should be. And the characters for in Chinese for crisis, I'm sure you heard, one is danger and one is opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I think of this always, in our time. So it was nice because right away people were trying to see what they could do to help. The lockdown then went in, so we were limited with travel. But we had, like, for an example, the field hospitals, which opened up because no one was prepared for this crisis. There wasn't enough supplies. So we helped, with the supplies and we also brought food, and then the women's shelter and the homeless shelter and some of the children's home and things we also could help with, with basic things. And then what we did is, we have that lovely home at the lake. There's a camp for children, and we couldn't gather the children, of course, because of COVID. So what we decided to do, since medical staff here is usually, they're not wealthy at all. They have very limited income, and they were on the front lines. And then there was this lovely group of youth volunteers, mostly Muslim, but I think there were a few Christians. And what we decided to do was we used our house for the fact that they could then have a recuperation and rehab after their front lines.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So we had a few groups for like a week or 10 days at a time. And it was really like how God worked it, because we didn't do it for the sake of advertising for the church, but people knew that it's the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And we're so small, and we made that resource, and people know, from people in the government to people, of course, the doctors and the lay volunteers. So that contact with those lay youth that are so generous, that are open-minded, say Muslims, how would we have ever gotten that without this providential? And then, like, the thing of just helping at the field hospitals, and then also in the south, there's a town that had very few materials. So if anyone ever sort of made a donation or something, we could apply it directly, huh?
But even the resources you've been using, when you said you're providing food, and when these medical people come to the house at the lake, I mean, that's all been coming from, international support.
Mostly, almost, yeah. I mean, the lay people here will do what they can, but certainly it's mostly from support from without the United States. And then, like, we just did a joint project. We signed it. We don't know if we'll get it with the Dutch consulate and an organization here, a humanitarian that's not religious based, for a maternity hospital, because they also needed supplies and things. So during this time, so it feels. And anyway, the woman at the maternity hospital told me something beautiful. The head doctor. She said, that at the hardest time, they had such a quarantine themselves. And I said, what sustained you? She's a Muslim and things, and very sort of open-minded, and their staff mostly is Muslim. And she said, the team. She said, really, that makes all the difference. Like, the others that supported each other and things, because people got sick, and I heard some even died. And she said, the team makes all the difference. And then she told me a story about how she would look out and see neighbors just bringing food to the hospital, and she said that really touched her strong, and it touches me to the
Did you have many need for funerals among your own parishioners?
Not so many. We had some people who passed away, we think, from related things, but not so many. We didn't have. Quite a few were sick. We think, with cause, but symptoms that looked very similar. Quite a few.
A lot of that. Yeah. It just dawns in my head. When I was there, we visited the cemetery where that previous bishop was buried. Can your average parishioner afford a cemetery plot?
They would find tradition. So they would find there are different cemeteries near the city, or that's kind of one of the closest one to the church. And there are other cemeteries, so that's what they would do is be buried at different places. So for Catholics in this part of the world, All Souls Day and the octave after is really important. So the priest and the parishioners visit the relatives, and for 8 days, we have the mass and the prayer for the indulgence, the plenary indulgence, and then we visit we try and visit all of the relatives of the person, and to them it's very important.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Some of the different things that I saw when I was there, for the sake of sharing this with the parishioners,
Right.
You talked about maternity hospital. You talked, I met the sisters for the women's house. Next summer, if I can get there next summer, I want to go see the place at the lake.
Wow, please, wonderful.
I know you're always kind of doing stuff, and the Jesuit priests, at the church itself at St. Michael's, and you've got a new church, relatively new.
No,
you said.
Well, right, in another town.
Yeah.
Consecrated last year, about a year ago now, and it's the first building ever built as a Catholic church in Kyrgyzstan.
Wow.
That we know of. I mean, maybe the Franciscan missions in the 14th century, 13th century might have had something, but we don't know. Exactly.
Okay, well, if you can do it every 700 years.
We hope we do it more often than that.
Yeah. Well, if you're the first in 700 years, I think that counts. That counts. That counts.
And it was a beautiful experience because, it was just the people were so proud, and so many Catholics came from across the country and from Kazakhstan to it.
And what city was that in?
In Talas, it's called. It's in western.
And kind of how large a community was that?
It's we're all small, but it's one of the things, again, as you saw when you're here, is that the church itself is just in one town, and then the villages.
Yeah, they all come
communities. Yeah, in different communities. So,
I still remember your installation as Apostolic Administrator. It was 5 degrees outside,
that's it.
Freezing cold, and there were so many people. They were just standing outside at the windows.
That's so beautiful.
To just be a part of that moment in the local church's experience. It was really wonderful. I think, I know you were truly impressed and touched. I was impressed in so many ways. My learning how to point to bishops and tell them here and here, go there, so that they would sign the documents correctly. So.
Yes, thanks to you.
A moment or two.
And done well. And
suits are, here and there, or there and here. I might have them switch.
That's it.
Yeah. Any work at St. Michael's?
At the parish, you mean? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So of course now, because of difficulty to gather, first of all we had the quarantine as I told you, for COVID, and now there was a ban on any gathering because of the political unrest.
Yeah.
So now they're afraid of the of the quarantine for the COVID-19. But we're like what we try and do is we follow all the norms, and we're doing. And I always have thought, until it's not possible, we must sort of gather. We must follow the norms. We must be responsible. We must believe that God is a God who works through nature. But at the same time, be praying and be so we are what we're doing, we go along to the
How many is it still 5 or 6 Jesuits in the country?
Yes, 7. There are 6 Jesuits and 1 diocesan priest.
Okay.
He's from Slovakia. He came about 2 years ago, and so he's been at St. Michael's, and now on November 1st we're starting a sort of evangelization pastoral service to the east. So that would include around the lake, and because there's a few Catholics spread around there. And so, we figure if he's physically present there, then it will be, And
the east, that would go, east of Bishkek and then all the way to the Chinese border?
Exactly. That's the territory there. So, the goal pastorally was the south. So we've invited some sisters who are on their way, but it's hard for them right now to get a visa and fly in. And they're already been assigned 4 sisters to work in the south. And they'll do, pastoral work with our priest, and also humanitarian, and teach languages.
That's great. That's great. How are your Kyrgyz studies going?
Well, let's just say that I haven't started composing literature in Kyrgyz, but on the other hand, I'm sticking to it. And what I did is I opened up to any of the parishioners or the sisters who wanted to. So after about 10 months, there are 5 of us who have stuck with it. And so we're, carrying on simple conversations, but, as it is, it demands to learn a new language, it demands great courage and great humility.
Are there any resources where, like, probably not the whole mass, but prayer books are translated into Kyrgyz? Or
Only
then you can at
things,
least read it and proclaim it?
well, only in like Protestants have translated quite a bit, the Bible and their prayers. But Catholic things we have translated, the Rosary we translated. But so far, like if all of our Catholics, speak Russian, and even if at home they would speak another language, they still pray with us in Russian. But this is, of course, what we're working on. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we do hope to have you here, and we'll talk about it offline, in December or whenever we can work it out to make the mission appeal. I'll share this video, if you don't mind. I'll share this video with, the social media that I have with the parishioners and whatnot that I know you see every once in a while. You're on Facebook every once in a while. So, Tony, I think you froze up there. So we'll see if I can get Tony connected up here.